Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1364B, and today's date is August 25th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Syria is Slipping Through the Cabal's Fingers. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, it looks like President Trump just signed an executive order deepening the sanctions on Venezuela, confirming the rumors of a ban on trading in Venezuela debt. Now, the U.S. government is considering restricting trades in Venezuela debt as it seeks to punish Maduro for undermining the country's democracy. And again, we can see the push is there to put pressure on Venezuela because what they really want is a regime change. Now, why do they want a regime change in Venezuela? Well, we can see what's happening out in the Middle East. Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, it is all slipping through the Cabal's fingers, and what they really want is an oil-producing country. They had it out in the Middle East. They're losing Syria right now, and it does not look good, and they're pushing their agenda here. We see that U.S. taxpayers, they spent $50 million for luxury cars, guns, and booze in Afghanistan. Now, a foreign company, which was hired by the U.S. government, to mentor and train Afghan intelligence officers, billed the United States for $50 million for, like I said, luxury cars like Porsches, Aston Martin, and Bentleys. They had lucrative salaries for the executives and the spouses. The firm also spent $1,500 on alcohol, $42,000 on automatic weapons, and we can see right now that in Afghanistan, we're having actually, I think it's up to $1 trillion already out in Afghanistan, where the Pentagon and the rest, they can't account for any of this stuff. They don't know where it went. And we could see they've been building schools that haven't been completed. They bought the wrong uniforms. And it looks like this money is being diverted into different areas. Now, like I said, the Cabal is losing their grip on the Middle East. Russia right now, they're going to expand their economic partnership across the Middle East. We see Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev. Well, he's going to discuss investment cooperation with the Lebanese Prime Minister, and they're looking to make a deal. Now, this is again bypassing the United States. They want an economic partnership. So does Iraq. So does Syria. So does Iran. And we can see already with Egypt and the rest of the Middle Eastern countries, they're all, same thing with Saudi Arabia, they're all moving towards Russia and China. Why? Because they realize the system is coming down. They realize the dollar will no longer exist. Now, remember what happens when all these countries stop using the dollar out in the Middle East. Because right now, every other country needs the dollar to purchase the oil. If they don't need the dollar to purchase the oil, and they're selling the oil through maybe the euro, maybe through the yuan, maybe through the ruble, just like Iran is doing right now, guess what? The countries don't have to keep their dollars in reserve. Remember, the central banks have taken inflation and they moved it overseas. And they used to take these dollars that they're holding in reserves and they used to buy the oil, and they used to go ahead and they used to purchase goods from the United States. But since the United States is not producing that much anymore, guess what? It's just not happening right now. So these dollars, if they don't need them anymore, they're going to rush back to the United States. And if they rush back to the United States, what are we going to see? Well, a lot more currency that's actually going to hit the public. Now, there's going to be more currency in the public arena, which means the value of the dollar is going to decrease. Now, the central banks, they've been creating currency, but they've been keeping it in housing. They've been keeping it in the stock market. They've been keeping it in the bond market. Banks, they've been holding on to it and using it for other things. This way, it didn't hit the public. This way, we couldn't see inflation. They offshored inflation by sending it overseas. And what we're going to see eventually, and we're starting to see it now, this is all going to come back and hit the United States. And already we see countries are pulling away from the dollar. Russia and Syria right now, they are creating a joint air defense system with the Pantsir S units and the S-400 air defense missile system, and this is going to be a unified air defense system, and it has been set up by Syria thanks to the efforts of the Russian and Syrian military experts, and pretty much they're going to put this all across the country, and anything that tries to enter the country, it is going to be shot down. It's almost like a force field over Syria right now. So if Israel tries to fly in, if the United States tries to fly in, this is going to be very, very difficult. Right now, they have an agreement where these planes can go and they're not targeted or anything like that. This is why we had that bombing run that hit the Syrian armed forces, because Russia knew of these planes because they had an agreement, but they didn't know that these planes were going to hit the Syrian armed forces. Now, all these planes are being targeted, and we're on a different playing field right now. We see the U.S.-backed forces. They're preparing a major offensive for Syria's Deir ez-Zor, and we can see that most likely this is not going to go well because Russia has been bombing that entire area. Right now, Russia, their Air Force, they have destroyed over 1,000 terrorist sites in Syria this week. And according to a published paper, the Russian Aerospace Forces performed over 360 combat sorties in the area, and we can see they've been destroying the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, like crazy. Now, Russia is out there, and they are saying they are not leaving Syria until they wipe out all the terrorist groups in Syria. So the Cabal right now, they're in deep, deep trouble because Russia, their mission is to hit all the different groups and remove them. And we can see already they cut off the borders. They're stopping the paid mercenaries. And this whole thing is completely falling apart. The Islamic State, they pushed their border offensive on the Lebanese border, and it was a complete and utter disaster. So what we're seeing right now is the Cabal, their grip on the Middle East is completely falling apart. And we need to understand that once this is completely done and they have no more power in this region and Russia and China start to step in, which they're already doing, well, guess what? The petrodollar is in trouble. If Trump, and we're going to have to watch this very carefully, if what he says he's going to do in Afghanistan is what he's going to do, where he's going after the terrorists, where he's going after the poppy fields, if he cuts off the funding to the Cabal, to the intelligence agencies, if he does all of these things, well, the Cabal is finished. There's nothing else left for them to do, except maybe some type of gigantic event. But we can see right now they're running into trouble, and I think this is why they're trying to push their agenda here in the United States, along with George Soros, where they're trying to create chaos between all the different people here in the United States. They want some type of civil war. They want some type of an event to happen, to occur, so they can say, look what's going on here. And they can have the corporate media, which is their mouthpiece. They can say, see, look, we have a racial divide, because we know that the UN came out with a warning already, and I wouldn't be surprised, because we know Antifa is behind a lot of these things, because George Soros pays them very well, that they're going to try something else very, very soon. And they're going to try to keep this pressure up, because what's happening is everything else around the world is completely falling apart. Everything that they built up over the many, many years, they just lost it all. Think about it for a second. Controlling Iraq, controlling Libya, Lebanon, Sudan, Somalia, going into Syria, then going into Iran. That entire plan is completely falling apart. Starting a war in North Korea has not happened as of yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to, because I expect them to push some type of major event to get us into a war. Hopefully, this can be stopped. This can be stopped before it happens, but we can see that they're not going to give up. And if their backs are against the wall and they have no other place to go, you will see they will come out swinging. And the corporate media will play it up, and it will seem like, this just happened naturally. This is what false flags are. So we can see here we are in August. We're coming up to Labor Day. It's been very, very quiet. And I'm expecting something big to happen within the next 2 weeks or so. Because I can't believe that the cabal is just going to lay low, let everything quiet down, let everything just disappear. They don't work like that. They're regrouping, they're planning, and they're going to push their agenda. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.